I think we'd like to start. If you would please take your seats. I gave it to him. Yeah. Thank you so much for staying for this conversation about the bylaws, which is really our foundational document. It's the go-to place for questions of how do things work here, and what are the relationships between different sections in our organizational structure. So thank you. Our bylaws were first drafted in 1997, and they've been amended 12 times. Article 12 of the existing bylaws states that these bylaws may be amended by a 2/3 vote at any meeting of the congregation. Today's meeting is for the purpose of encouraging conversation about the proposed Amendment 13, which would replace Amendment 12 approved by the congregation on February 25th, 2018. Amendment 13 will be called to a vote in 2 weeks at a meeting of the congregation on April 25th, 2021. So as Brenda mentioned, this conversation is being live streamed. And when we open the conversation, after we do our little preamble, please raise your hand to offer a question or comment, and Phil will bring the microphone around so we can all hear. And if you are participating virtually and wish to submit a question or comment, please text your question or comment to my phone and I will read it. And that number, for those of you at home, is 928-853-0311. That's 928-853-0311. So we'll begin by offering a bit of background and then open the floor to your comments and questions. At the May 13th, 2020 council meeting, we voted to form a subcommittee to review the bylaws. Committee members have been David Polyestewa, who's been our chair, Bev Sealand, Bill Borchert, and me. In our review, and Phil Leggett was also really helpful to us in offering his wisdom and his historical perspective throughout the process. Our review was guided by certain goals, which were updating the language to align with changes in the UCC regional structure, clarifying roles and responsibilities, aligning the bylaws with other foundational church documents, increasing flexibility in the church calendar, and enhancing documentation and accountability. We also attempted to identify those changes that seem most pressing versus those that we felt could wait for the next draft, which the committee will resume work on during the next year. The version we will be voting on April 25th includes only those changes that seem the most important. This document has been made available to the congregation over the past few weeks and also electronically. And I assume that everyone here has a document or has seen the document. If not, raise your hand and we can bring you a copy. Casey has it, David. Thank you, Casey. So the copy that has been distributed is watermarked as a draft and includes the new language in red font. Bill Borchert has been really helpful as church counsel in reviewing the draft several times, check for legal implications in the new language and meaning. So during the discussion today, if issues arise that need further consideration, we will take them before our council meeting this Wednesday, April 14th. So I'm going to invite other committee members to add to this overview. David, you want to?
A lot of the changes are changing the way that we refer to different parts of the organization. For instance, one simple one is we no longer have the refer to the Connecticut Conference. We now refer to it as a Southern New England Conference. So a lot of that we went through and updated. Is there any questions in terms of how we make note on the changes? The exact change is in red. For those of you that can print in color. If not, it was also with a bold font to distinguish it from the normal text. And the copies that we've sent out have an italicized the original description or written word that we have in the bylaw as it is today, so that you can compare what we're proposing with what is in there now. Didn't know if there was any questions as to, or not sure how we've made the changes. Okay, go ahead, Casey.
If some of them don't have anything in italics afterwards, so does that mean there was no original text, it's just in a full edition?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Yep. And because of the italicized version, or what I refer to as existing or original text, the length of the document has increased temporarily, so the page numbers don't tie into the original length of the document. So once we have approval and we take that out of there, then it should settle down to a certain number of pages that people can refer to in the future. Again, are there, if anybody has need to make comment or anything, they certainly are able to do that at this point, or send a text to Hollis's phone number, and we can respond either right now, or we can respond after the second hour. Not seeing any comments or anything like that, which is understandable. So, we didn't want to go through every single line item word by word today, if possible, because it would be here probably for about 2 hours. So, go ahead. There isn't anything in here that's, as you refer to as confrontational, that I can even see. I would say probably closest thing to that would be, if we had anything, would be the, no, there really is not anything confrontational in this entire thing. Well, that would be one. Yeah, I mean, that was the frequency of reporting is probably one of them. The only other thing I can think of is the auditing of the church. That we simplified it, but probably next time this year, well, my term is in effect, we'll probably address the auditing of the church, because that brought up some discussion in church council. Larry brought something up, and so did Art, about auditing the church. Because we don't address it too in detail. We just have it in here right now that we like to do an audit as deemed necessary. In the past, some reference was that we've audited the church with an outside company every 5 years. And I don't think we've been adhering to that exactly. And the other one was contractual obligations that the church makes. So the Board of Trustees takes out a contract with, chimney service once for either the furnace here or the parsonage. If do we say that it needs to, if it exceeds a certain amount, it actually has to go by the church council, president in particular, or if we put a monetary amount on it, cap it at a certain amount. But that's contractual, and a big one would be, for instance, the insurance on the church. Due diligence was done by the Board of Trustees to try to get us some quotes, and we found out we needed to increase the amount that we pay every year for the premium. So, and the best was to stay with the insurance board. So that is something that we're contractual for. We have to pay the premium every month if we want it to stay in effect. So things like that. Another one contractual would be lawn service, things like that. A big one, if we ever undertake it again, would be doing phase 2 on the kitchen renovation. Contractually, we would be under the gun, or we would be responsible for making payments to the general contractor and the subcontractors. And so, that everything on that would have to go to the church council. So we're trying to get specifics. Those are some examples of where I think people definitely would want to make sure we're doing as best as due diligence as we possibly can. So we'll address those, I think, in a little bit more in the next phase, which would be during my term, because it does touch different sections. It's not just one single area, whereas a lot of these, we just updated the terminology. One would be a gender change under the deacons. We got rid of the word deaconess, and now we just refer to ourselves as deacons. And then just some of the terms in terms of addressing the officers. Like it's the director of faith formation versus the director of, or the church council. I mean, we try to update things like that just so that we would be more current with what we refer to. So, but again, if there are something that if there's something that somebody wants to bring to our attention in terms of what changes we're proposing, that certainly they have between this and the vote, So we'll look at it one more time as a church council on Wednesday as well. Yes, Brenda? Yep. Right. Okay. Brenda made a good point. Because of the way we've been doing it in the past in terms of approving the budget, we've been going to like a budget that's gone over past February. We addressed that in here. So trying to find that real quickly. Page 4. Yeah, and the beginning of, here we go. Church council. Page 4. It's this one, sorry. I was referring to the cheat sheet here and it's throwing me off. Yeah, the annual meeting of the congregation, it's under Article 6, Section A. The annual meeting of the congregation shall be held at a date and time in the first quarter of the year. In the past, it was saying that we had to have the annual meeting at a date and time in February. And so we've changed that. That's something that we now do, is we push it out a little bit. Hopefully, maybe this year we could start our pledge drive sooner than later. And I know in the past we've started in October, but and we start church officially in September. Maybe we start a little sooner than that, so that it doesn't put so much pressure on us, because that's what pushes us later out into the years. We finally get our pledge numbers in, get a good idea anyway on how much our pledge numbers are, and the budget gets developed. And before we know it, it's December. And December is such a packed month of our church, in our church calendar with all the activities and stuff, that before we know it, it's January. And then before we know it, it's February. So that's kind of what is having us push this or state this first quarter of the next year. But I'm hoping to this year not push things out so far with the pledges, and get a good pledge number, get a good pledge vote. But at least we would have this in the new this new direction, or this clause in our bylaws. Is there any other items in particular that you would like me to address at all? Hearing none, are there any text calls from anybody? Okay. Hearing none, I don't think we should keep this second hour any longer than we've kept it. I know people have places to go, and even though COVID is hopefully continuing on its downward trajectory, and we can continue and have a more active spring and summer. I thank you for all your time in terms of staying these extra minutes on this Sunday. Thank you very much again for all of your time. And in 2 weeks, we'll take an official vote to update the bylaws. Thank you again for all your time today.